Today I'm going to be talking about energy and food chains and why they are so essential to understand. To begin, the whole food chain starts with the sun, which is the ultimate energy source for all biotic organisms on the planet. The energy given off from the sun's rays is what allows the first organism in the chain to gain energy. This first organism is called a producer, and this category usually consists of plants. As organisms are eaten and energy is passed along in the food chain, we are introduced to primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary consumers. Each level of this food chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, are called trophic levels, and the organisms within these are either considered producers or consumers. Producers can also be known as autotrophs, meaning that they make their own food, which usually happens via photosynthesis. And consumers are called heterotrophs, meaning that they have to eat food in order to gain their energy. To put this into perspective, let's take a look at an example food chain. As previously mentioned, all energy is obtained from the sun. The sun's rays move into the producer, which is a tree in this example. From there, the elephant, or our primary consumer, eats the tree and gains some energy from it. The same happens as the cheetah, our secondary consumer, eats the elephant. The question we are now presented with is, why is this food chain so short? This question can best be answered by analyzing how an organism gains its energy and what that energy is used for. In producers, such as our tree, energy is acquired from the sun and is then used to grow, reproduce, maintain homeostasis, respire, etc. In consumers, this is very similar, except that food is the main energy source. Because so much energy is needed to perform different processes necessary for survival, the food chain we see here is ultimately inefficient. This is caused by a loss of 10% energy as we move up each trophic level. Henceforth, this key concept provides one key hypothesis as to why the food chains are so short, which is the energetic hypothesis. Since 10% of energy is lost each time, the food chain has to be kept short so that by the time the energy reaches the top predator, usually the quaternary consumer, there is still enough energy present to sustain that organism. The second hypothesis is the dynamic stability hypothesis. This hypothesis pushes aside the amount of energy passed on and says that the food chain is so short so that in the event of an organism's large-scale death, it will not affect an entire ecosystem, but instead only a small food chain. So why does this matter? It's common for kids to hear from their parents that they need to eat their fruits and veggies, and as difficult as it is to admit, parents are right because humans can gain more energy from eating producers as opposed to other consumers. Also, we can understand more about ecological succession, eutrophication, and the human effect, such as effects of deforestation and how the continually growing population could pose a threat for food chains and ecosystems everywhere. So it's important that we do our part to limit destruction of these much-needed food chains and organisms.